Hi guys, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and we're gonna put some more parts on this snapper. The last video I left off, I tried to start it and my battery was dead. I knew when I bought the machine the battery was weak, and he used to start it with the rope the first time, and after that he would use the battery. This battery, you can see the top has a pattern in it. That's a standard snapper battery. And the bracket that goes into that, it drops into this recess and locks into place so your battery doesn't slide around. Now these batteries are, let's see, $57 from the Snapper dealer, which is an hour and a half away from me. This battery was $58 and it's right on my way home from work. So I bought this one. But I had to work on this bracket. This bracket didn't have this piece on. It stopped right here and right here, and it didn't have this piece on because it locked into the recess on the top. I had to put the extra pieces on so it would straddle the battery and keep it contained. It can't come out of there. But I made it so it would still fit on the original battery if I ever went back to the original one. Now I do have a video on welding this up. I should say tacking it. I got it all tacked up in the video, and I had somebody show up that I had to talk to help them through a problem. And when I came back, I forgot to turn the camera back on to actually show me welding this. But to grind the welds down, once you get the welds ground down, you can hardly tell where it was welded. You can see a little ripple here and here, and the same on the back side if you catch the light just right somehow. You can see a line, a circular line on here because I flipped the part over. I wanted to get it painted before it actually cured up. And I've got a mark on there from the top of this old pill bottle that it sat on when I painted it. And this is a Lazy Susan, so I can rotate it without touching it. And this came off of a very old computer monitor. I've had it for years, as you can tell, all the different colors on the top of this thing. But it works good, and hey, it was free. So we got this thing painted up. This battery is a little shorter than the original battery, so I had to elongate the hole that it bolts onto, otherwise it held it up in the air off the battery. So I'm going to insert the welding that I did on this, what little of it there was, and you can check and see where my two mistakes were. I'll give you a hint. When you weld something, it gets hot really quick. So let's move down here and we'll throw the battery in and a couple other parts. Now when I got done welding this, I cleaned up the welds with this little right-angled grinder. It's air. It has sandpaper on it. And it's pretty fine sandpaper, but if you're going to use this for woodworking, buy extremely fine paper because these things are super aggressive. This little paper, this is a 240, and it ground down that steel weld off that bracket. And to buff it, you just get one of these pads. This is a 3M Scotch-Brite pad, and I'll tell you, these things do a wonderful job for buffing steel. So let's look at the welding video and then we'll put the battery in. Be right back. Trouble with my hood here. Now, I'll try and attach that somehow, so we'll stay there. I can tack it. Just have to get one on the back. That might be a little harder to hold in place. This is my old battery, just in case you're wondering. Maybe I can just hold that there. Oop, don't want it down there though. Now we'll see how it fits on a new battery. Not bad. Now we'll just weld it together. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little welding segment. Now we're going to put the battery in. We might as well take these screws and nuts off right now. Now these are a 1024 nut, or screw and nut. They're a round head, and the nuts have a built-in lock washer on them, which is kind of nice. We'll get the bracket in place. And I have a screw sitting here somewhere. Here it is. This is a round head Phillips drive screw that we're going to insert in here. And that should securely hold the battery in place while you're bouncing around in the yard. Then we can put the wires on. Now again, this battery came from right here in town where I buy all my batteries, and that is USA 1 battery in Muskegon. Great place to deal with, very knowledgeable, and very reasonable prices for a small little battery store. Now we'll pull that little cap down. Now we can get the cover on, and I'll show you why I drilled and tapped these holes and why I have this stud sticking out on the back side. If I can find where I put my covers. I cut off and removed these little plastic studs. They're not meant to be reused over and over. They're meant to just shove the cover on. It's quick for them, and when you go to remove this, you'll have quite a time pulling it off of those. So I just get rid of them. On the stud that's sticking out, we're going to use a wing nut. And these two holes on this side, again, we're going to use the round head 1/4-20 screws. Now on my welder, I'm going to be having a video coming up that I bought some new parts for it, and they have to be installed. So that will be coming up shortly. And this screw is not cooperating at all. Once you get them started, it's a little easier than them plastic push pins. Now, in the past where you have a problem like this getting the screw started, you can take these to a belt sander or a grinder and grind a point on them. That will help it get started in the hole for you. Camera back a little bit. We're going to put on the hubcaps, get them back on where they belong, on the front and rear. The cover on the mower deck, if you drop this down, it'll make it a lot easier for you. And we'll grab the screws and a nut driver to get them in with. These front ones are fairly easy to install. back ones are a little harder. And looking at my camera, I've noticed what I forgot to do. I forgot to plug in my little microphone. There, I hope that's better. The back ones are a little harder to get in because you're so far away from the hole. You have quite a distance to try to get them down into the hole on that thing. And I have a text from a viewer that I'm going to have to call later and find out what their issues are. All right, we got the cover on. Now we got to get the gas tank bracket on that I painted. Maybe I'll elevate this a little. Let's see, where's that laying? And we'll try to get these started. I didn't notice when I took this thing apart how rusty that bracket was. So we put some paint on it. Now on the tank, I want to put new gas line, a new fuel filter, and a new shutoff valve on it. And before I get too far and get this buried, I want to put the gas line in now on the carburetor. It'll be easier to cut it to length, but it's going to be kind of hard to get it in here with everything in my way. Move the little clamp up, and we'll get the gas tank. There's a little dirt in there. Guess it would help if I put it in the right direction. Now we got to get these little brackets and screws in here. I don't know why they sent they have these brackets on here on the gas tank. I don't know, maybe I can move you a little closer. These screws will go through this bracket without these things. I don't know why they have these on here. I guess because it's just another piece they can sell to us. Because I see no purpose at all for having them. And I guess it would probably be easier if you did this before you put the seat in your way. But it shouldn't be a problem. There's one. And there's the other one. Now this gas tank has what I gotta take that cover off, maybe you can see it a little better. It sits over here. I refer to them as being a mousetrap. I don't know why they had to go to it. I'm sure it was because of California and the high emission standards they have. That is a, let me raise you up a little bit, you can see it. This is a charcoal filter that the gas tank is vented through. The vent for the tank is here. It goes through the charcoal filter and just then into the atmosphere. Where the old Snappers had a vent on the gas tank, or on the gas cap, these do not. So let's guess I could lift my deck up a little. We're going to route this hose in here. Let's see, that should be long enough. We'll cut it off right about there. And we have the shut off. And the filter and some clamps. This is a Briggs & Stratton filter. We'll put on here. And I think what we're going to do is we'll put that right up close to the gas tank. Now these are directional. It has an arrow pointing which way the fuel is supposed to flow. Now I'm going to put a clamp on here. And we'll put another clamp on this other end. And shove it on the gas tank. I want to put some oil on that. I can't tell you that I'm using WD-40. I guess some people don't like that. We'll put a little on the stem on the tank, and it slides right on. Now we'll slide the clamp up. Now, where do we want the shut-off valve? I would say right out here in the open. We'll take that off. And right there we'll put the shut-off valve. These are not directional. You can put them on any way you like. Nobody's gonna holler at you. Just remember to put a clamp on first. And we'll shove the valve in. We'll pull the clamp down. I kind of like to turn these clamps so the sharp edge isn't pointed towards the handle on the valve. I keep the prongs or the sharp points pointed backwards. And we'll put this one on. And we might as well put this one on same time. We'll shove it on the valve. Pull that down. And we'll shove this one. We're going to turn this clamp around so I can get a hold of it once I get it shoved on the filter. And okay, that slide on nice. And now my valve is sticking right out where I can see it, because I've never had one on here before, and you're gonna forget to turn that thing on. I just know that's gonna happen until I train myself to turn the valve on. Now we're pretty much done with this. We got to put the cover on the other side over the electronics. Now don't forget, in one of the upcoming videos, we're going to be giving away, let me just pick you up here. We're going to be giving away a bottle of Tap Light, but I'm going to stick it inside of one of the videos, so you're going to have to be watching to win it. And in that video, I'll explain how to what you have to do to register. Yeah, we'll put this other cap on here. And we'll pull this out. Now this cover goes on the same way the other one did, with some screws. And my interlock is held on from the inside with another screw. We'll make sure that's tight. And this cover goes on. Set my brake so I can shift this thing. Put on the wing nut on the stud that's sticking out. Now if you're worried about these coming loose, they do make a self-locking wing nut that you can put on there, and that won't come off. Put the bottom screw in, and the top one. And I wish I had a magnetic screwdriver. I have one more part I'm going to put on here that is not factory, but before I can do it, I have to pick up a diode. And when I get one, I will show you what that's for. Now, I have another part that did not come on this machine, but it is a factory part. One of my viewers sent it to me. And I am terrible with names, pronouncing them and remembering them. But come on, I'm old. Give me a break. Garo Nick sent me this. And no, it's not a air filter. He just used that box. It's something I mentioned in a video that I have never had on one of my machines. So he sent me one just out of the blue. I have a few viewers that do that. It's a bottle holder. So we're going to mount that on here. It looks like a brand new one that he's never used on his machine. That's probably because he doesn't drink Pepsi. I don't know. But it's looking like it's getting more complete. And look at that. I even have a bottle to put in there. Check this thing out, see what's going on. Well, battery works. And that's it. We got most everything put back on this bad boy. Even took off this handy dandy drain that Briggs & Stratton puts on these engines. I do not recommend you keeping these on your machine. Most of them come with this really nice hose. And this part was a good idea. This part was not. This come off my boss's machine. I went all through it on a couple series ago, and the way this worked is this bent up and this part right here snapped underneath of the cover, the edge of the cover. Tip you down here a little. When it was installed, this snapped up here like this. And even if you left this open, the oil couldn't get out because this was higher than the oil level in the engine. And it even has a screw-on cover with an O-ring that seals. The problem was, when Tim backed into his garage, this thing sticks out quite a ways on the back of the machine. Let me tip you back down here. This sticks out actually farther than your bumpers do. So when he backed into the garage, this part of the hose ran into the tire on his 26-inch bicycle. And that was enough pressure to crack this cover and made it start leaking down here. So even though this hose was up in the air, the oil still leaked out of his engine. The only way he found out was when he backed into his garage, he backed past the center drain on the floor. If he would have stopped on top of that drain, he never would have knew he lost all his oil. He came out to mow a couple days later, and he looked, and there was oil running out from under the front end down the drain in his floor. So he did some checking and found out this broke. I just don't know how lucky he was to back up past that drain. So them I throw in the garbage. When a machine comes in, that's the first thing I take off, and I put on a 3/8 inch, 2-inch long nipple and cap. If you put on a drop this down a little. If you put on a 2-inch long pipe nipple, 3/8, and a 3/8 cap, it stays behind where the machine stands up when you store it in the winter. And the Teflon tape I use, I don't use this white stuff anymore. I use what they call Blue Monster. It's thicker, and to me it just works a lot better as far as sealing. This is a roll of 3/4 inch wide, as this is, and you can get it in 1/2 inch wide. I'm just out of the 1/2 inch, so I used the 3/4. You can see some of it's still sticking out on the pipe. But I think that's it for this series as far as rebuilding my machine. Now, it didn't need a lot of work. I just went through it to make sure whatever was worn out, I replaced. So that machine should last me the rest of the days that I'm breathing. If you take care of these, once you rebuild them, they'll last you for 20 years. You got to keep your eye on the fluid level in the differential and the chain case. Regardless of what you use, check them levels. You have to grease the left hand bushing on these machines. I grease mine. Well, I don't use my machine a lot. If I mowed once a week, I would grease that. Just needs a shot of grease once a month. If that doesn't get greased, that bushing will wear out. And what it typically does, especially if it gets sand inside of it, you would think the sand would just fall away. But because there's some grease there, the sand will embed itself in the softest material, which is the bushing. So now every time that axle turns, that sand is grinding on your axle. So now, not only do you need a new bushing, but you've ruined your axle, so it would be pointless to put a new bushing in with that old axle. You want to make sure the lip seal on the outside of that bushing or bearing, whatever you have, is intact. That's very important. Them things are probably $6-7. In axle and bushing combined is going to be close to 100. So keep them greased. And these things should last a long time. That's the issue I'm having with trying to get subscribers. These guys subscribe, they get their machine all fixed up. It's going to last them so long, they just unsubscribe. So please, if you're subscribed to my channel, turn the little bell off and stay subscribed. It really helps me. Maybe someday, if I get enough subscribers, I'll actually get some money out of Google. The next thing we're going to be doing, I do have one more part to put on that. I'm not going to say what it is, but I need a diode before I can do it. So as far as that goes, the baby's done. I did make another platform to stand it up on so I can roll it around and keep it out of my way. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to finish tearing apart this machine. I'm going to part it out. I've got a lot of parts. I already sold the seat, steering wheel, the drivetrain, parts inside. And when I get them all done, out, cleaned up, I'll lay them on top of the saw. I'll show you what I have, and if you need anything, let me know. So that's it. Until next time, remember to subscribe, hit that thumbs up if you like the videos, And I guess work safe, have fun, and keep on snapping. We'll talk to you soon. So long.